And with that, hello, greetings. Welcome to the Korea TESOL International Conference. We're here midday, 2 o'clock is our time here, Korea Standard Time. I'm James Rush, and we welcome you, and wherever you are at now that this might be watched in the near future or even a couple years from now, we do have a presentation for you that looks to give you some skills and ideas and things to be able to work with your students who wants to overcome their fears of speaking. And so we have Gregg, who is going to give you the whole spiel, introduction of himself and other things. And so thank you, Gregg. Let me make sure that you're pinned to the screen and all visible, and we'll go with that.
Excellent.
Take care.
Thank you very, very much, James. Good morning from sunny Greece, Athens, Greece, where I'm based. And I just want to say thank you to all the teachers here with us during this conference. And the reason why I want to say thank you is because the definition of a teacher, as we see here, is someone who passes on knowledge. And this is what we do with our students, our future global agents of change, as I like to call them. But more importantly, there's a second part to what a teacher is. And it says, and changes lives forever. And this is something that I want us to think about before we jump into this webinar, because we've been through a lot, right? These past 2 years have been very, very difficult, not just for us as teachers, but for our little thinkers, our students. And now we're kind of going through this other phase of education where if there isn't this open line of communication with our kids, with our students, what's going to happen in the classroom? Will there be a flow? Will there be that energy for the students, that engagement for our students to really participate and to have some fun in the classroom? So give me one moment because I'm getting I want to check my internet. Okay. The trials and tribulations of doing webinars is when the internet goes up and down. So, you know, in all my years of teaching, and I've been in the educational field for roughly 26 years, there's one thing that constantly was a challenge for our students, for my students. And when my students would look like this, right, they'd be showing me through their nonverbal communication that they're not very comfortable in doing something. Now, as I have the chat box open all the time during this presentation, please, by all means, as I interact with you, you can answer questions, ask questions through the chat box, okay? And so when our students are looking at us like this, when we are aware of this nonverbal communication, it kind of triggers, right, this little red, this little light in our heads that explains to us that, excuse me, that there's something going on. They're not comfortable in doing something. And so speaking, the two macro skills of the English language, communication, speaking and listening, is something that our students need to practice more and more each and every day. Now, there's that very famous phrase, practice makes what? Dear teachers, what is it? Can you finish that phrase for me? Practice makes
perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, practice makes perfect. But I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that, though. And the reason why I disagree with that is because I don't think anyone is perfect. In my classrooms, there were two words I never used. It was perfect and best. because we can always improve our perfection. So practice makes improvement, right? If we think about that, kind of makes a little sense. And so when we have our students to say, oh, I'm the best, I turn around and I say, well, can you better your best? And this is what I want us to think about throughout this webinar when it comes to speaking, is that can we be better today than we were yesterday? Can we be better tomorrow than we were today? We can, but the English classrooms cannot be silent. It can't be quiet. It drives me crazy when I visit schools and I travel around the world and I pass by an English classroom and they're like, no, Greg, come visit this class. This is the English classroom. And I'm like, really? This classroom right here where everyone is sitting so quietly. I said, a language needs to be practiced, right? There needs to be that, as I call it, controlled chaos, the buzzing of little bees working together in pairs and in groups and making those mistakes. So, when we talk about the communicative approach, when we talk about speaking and listening, right? It can only be practiced best if students are able to do it in classroom and in the hallways and in the cafeteria and on the playground, right? To have this culture of English in the school. So something I like to share and something that I share with students when I talk about speaking is a little clip from Friends. Okay, so here Phoebe and Joey are in the cafe in Central Park, and he needs to practice for a part that he has. Well, he doesn't have it yet, but he has to try out for it, and he needs to speak a different language. All right, so let's just see how they have fun with this.
Pretty simple. Your first line is, my name is Claude. So just repeat after me. Je m'appelle Claude.
Je découpe plow.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
Je m'appelle Claude.
Je déplie mlou.
Huh. It's not quite what I'm saying.
Really? Sounds exactly the same to me.
It does? Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's just try it again.
Okay.
Really listen.
Got it.
Je m'appelle Claude.
Je te floop flee.
Oh, mon Dieu.
Oh, de fouf.
So, in the classroom, when we share something like this, there are many issues that are going on, right? Active listening versus passive listening. How Phoebe responds to him trying to do this, which is why I always say to teachers, when students try something out, okay, when they have the courage and they take that step forward to try something out, our reaction, our response, both verbally and non-verbally, is so important in building their confidence and their motivation. Okay, so today, what we're going to do is look at speaking, not from our perspective, but from our students' perspective. Just like the Peter Pan principle that we suffer sometimes, we forget what it was like being a kid. We forget what it was like learning the language, opening up our mouths and saying something, asking something, debating something. So first, we're going to see and explore how is it that our students feel. Second, we're going to try to change their mindset. Okay, not so much, not that they have the wrong mindset, but kind of guide their mindset to when it comes to the English language and especially speaking. And third, what is it that they need? Because their needs are, especially now, it's exponentially increased. So I'm a big fan of quotes when it comes to students and conveying messages. So here it says, speak in such a way that others love to listen to you. Very important, especially for a teacher. But the second part, listen in such a way that others love to speak to you, right? So it's this synergy, this relationship, this interaction that we have with one another all the time, in how we convey a message, in how we convey our feelings, our emotions, content, functions, concepts, information, right? So you as the teacher may be saying, well, hey, I'm doing a really good job. All my students are really paying attention. They're looking at me like they know what I'm talking about. But are they listening to you in that way? And then as they're listening to you, when they show you that sign that they're not sure, or they'd really like to participate further by asking a question, is that time allotted for students to do that, to ask that question of why, or how, or what? So jumping into how they feel, please, in the chat box, let me know what you think about the following sentences or phrases or questions that I show you. Do you believe that it's true, or do you believe that it is false? For example, feelings, emotions. All emotions matter in the classroom. Do you agree with this? Is this true? Very nice. Excellent. True, true, agree, agree. Excellent. Next one. Too many students today are suppressing their emotions in class. Would you agree with this? That they're suppressing their emotions. They're not really expressing themselves on how they feel. What do you think, guys? You'll see where I'm going with this. 50-50. Okay. All right. That's why I wrote too many students and not all students. I used my words very, very carefully. Excellent. Good. How about this one? A full range of emotions are actually what make us human. What do you think about that statement? A full range of emotions are what make us human. Now, let me just quickly go to the next one because it kind of connects. These emotions that we have are ultimately what gets us through life. And the reason why I put this down was because, we have to reflect on everything that we have experienced in the past years and ask ourselves, social emotional wellness and emotions, it got us through everything that we went, that we experienced. But now I see that a lot of students have really put up some walls, have put up some barriers, right? And this is going to not necessarily be the best thing for us teachers when it comes to teaching back to face. And therefore, emotions actually help in communication, in understanding how we feel, which is why this particular webinar connected with a webinar I conducted on social emotional wellness, because we can see that a student may be upset, may be happy, may be sad, may be fearful, may be confused, we don't know. The point is that they should be able to talk about it, to express it. We may be in our grammar mode and say, okay, boys and girls, so the present continuous versus the present simple, and continue speaking and continue showing and being really energetic, which is great. But a student, if they don't understand, they start getting frustrated. And when they start getting frustrated, they're not really paying attention. They're not learning. But yet that student wants to say, hold on, teacher, wait a minute. Wait, I don't get it. I don't understand. But I can't ask that because I feel that if I show that I don't understand, that I will look like an idiot. Maybe my friends or my students in class will make fun of me. I don't want to be that person who looks like he doesn't know. And so the flip side is that a student who does know and wants to raise his hand doesn't want to be the show off, doesn't want to be the smarty pants, the nerd in the class, right? And so they also are hesitant in speaking and communicating. You know, this topic of speaking is not just skin deep. I mean, it goes much further than just it's simple practice. But I think that as we continue, we can see that interactions and knowing your student is the key to assisting in this macro skill. For example, an activity I love to do with teachers in a workshop, and I'm showing it to you now, and you can extend this at your own time. Please reflect at this moment on a student that has difficulty with speaking. Okay, let's do this for a moment. Think about that student. Okay, all right. So we all have one. Okay, maybe even a few, but just think of one. Now, if you can, write down his or her name. It's very important to write things down. And I don't mean put it in a computer. I mean to literally take a pen or a pencil and write it down on paper, okay? Or in your reflective journal that I always recommend teachers to have. So you have his or her name. Now, what I want you to do is close your eyes and think of that student when they're having that difficulty in speaking. How are they showing it to you through nonverbal cues, through nonverbal communication? What can you see? What can you be aware of? Write down something that they do when asked to speak. So, dear teachers, very quickly in the chat box, what do some of your students do when they're asked to speak that shows you that they are uncomfortable in doing this? All right. There are many, many things that they do just to get the ball rolling. They don't have eye contact with you, right? They look down or they look around. They are barely audible. Yes, it's like they're little mice. And do you know why, Chloe? Because what teachers do sometimes is when they ask a question to a student who shows that they're not ready or they're not confident enough, they expect that student so far away to convey their message, to say what they want to say, instead of that distance between the teacher and the student, to minimize that distance, to walk a little bit closer to the student so that student doesn't have to speak so loudly, right? And if you do that, if you minimize the space, that proximity, right, that barely audible student will not be so quiet, right? And then we give them positive reinforcement. They look around. Yes, they look like a little lost soul. Like, what, who, me? You're talking to me? You're asking me, right? They throw their hands up or fall back or turn their shoulder. Yes, they sit. Yes, the infamous sitting in the back of the classroom. And that happens when I do presentations. And it's so funny. I see teachers coming in and they look at me because you can't see, I'm quite tall. I'm 2 meters 2. And so they come in and they look at me and they go, oh my goodness, this guy's a giant. And so the room starts getting filled and all the people are sitting in the back. And I go, you're just like your students. Don't be afraid of sitting in front, right? So this student that you have in your mind, and this is the key, this is the heart to education, is knowing your student, guys. So my question when I do the workshop is write 3 things that you know about this student. And a lot of teachers look around and say, oh, wow, this is difficult. And yet this is the most important. Because if we ask ourselves if this student who's having difficulty with speaking is a lower, average, or higher performing student, guess what? It doesn't matter what level they are, because all students have this difficulty. Now you may say, Greg, I have a couple of students, they're really good in speaking. And I'll say, that's great. But many times those students practice speaking for a test. Many times those students are comfortable in that environment. But let's take them out of that classroom environment and put them in an interview for a job. Let's put them in front of a podium and have them speak to 200 students in the auditorium at school. Let's have a one-on-one talk about current events. It all comes down to literally having that connection with your students so that you can peel back everything that is bothering them regarding speaking. And so the reason why I talk about these feelings and these emotions is because when a student is having a bad day, when you're having a bad day, don't you just want to be left alone? Don't you just want to say, you know what, give me my time? In class, students also have the same reaction. They may be having a bad day. So if you know your students really well and you know that what's going on in their homes, if what's going on with their likes and dislikes, with their friends in school, if there was an argument in the morning between like a couple of friends, just saying, hypothetically speaking, and they come into your class and you see that there is this issue, you don't want to ask a student to reply or to answer a question if they're not in a very good mood, right? So that's being fair to their needs, which we're going to talk about later on. So we talked about some feelings, the importance of feelings, and now mindsets. You know, we've seen this before, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. All right, we've heard it before. We've talked about it before. And so those with a fixed mindset believe that their success, right, that they're good at something is a result of their talent, their smarts. And don't forget, parents have a lot of influence with these 2 types of mindsets. The second is a growth mindset, who believes that their success, they're very good at English, is a result of their hard work. Someone writes, some students are good at talking, but don't have much to truly say. Yes. Then they dominate. Yes, they do. Absolutely. Very quickly, because I like this. I like this when you write in the chat box. Don't worry, I could deviate a little bit. In the classroom, we sometimes have, I call students different animals, right? We have the lions in the classroom, and then we have the quiet mice in the classroom, and then we have some monkeys in the classroom. And the monkeys in the classroom are those who, when they have something to say, right, but it's not really something very important, or when we ask an answer to a question, they go and they make these noises like little monkeys. And so when they dominate, because that's a very good comment, they dominate a session or they dominate the classroom, we give 10 seconds of thinking time, which means when you ask a question, no one can raise their hand for 10 seconds. So I ask a question. Now, it may not seem like a lot, but believe me, to those students who need that extra time to think of what to say, it's priceless. And so you as the teacher, when you give that 10 seconds of thinking time, what is your responsibility? What is your accountability to your students? To scan the room, to ignore those students that constantly answer questions, and to focus on those other students that may have something to say, but needed that extra time that you're giving them. And so the power of proximity, where you said about the students who are barely audible, you gravitate towards those students, scanning and say, I see that you are thinking of something pretty cool. You want to share it with us? You want to share it with me? Go ahead. And you come closer, and that will help with that situation. Okay. So we have the fixed mindset that they think they're great because of their innate talent, that they're just gifted, right? And then you have the growth mindset. And so what mindset is this? If you have to work hard, you don't have ability. If you have to work hard, you don't have ability. Believing that they are stuck with however much intelligence they're born with, when they fail, these students feel trapped. They start thinking they must not be as talented or smart as everyone has been telling them. They avoid challenges, fearful that they won't look smart. This is fixed. This is what we don't want our students to be. And so when we flip this mindset around, the more you challenge yourself, the smarter you become, believing that intelligence can actually be nurtured. The more learning they do, the smarter they will become. When faced with a setback, though, they believe that they can improve rather than fail by putting more time and effort into it. So they actually value the experience of learning above looking smart. And to take this one step further, this slide is one of my favorite slides. Don't we want our students to be in this growth zone? And so this growth mindset you're going to see is that we're going to be taking them through these zones, because our future global agents of change need to be prepared for what's going on in life. And life changes just so fast. And so we want them to find a purpose, to live their dreams, their ambitions, to set new goals, and to conquer objectives, because this is what we want ultimately for everyone. But to get to that growth zone, our students are with us now in their learning zone, solving problems, facing challenges that are given to them, acquiring new skills, hard skills, soft skills, people skills, global skills, 21st century skills, and extending them from their comfort zone. But guess what? There's a zone between the comfort zone and the learning zone that students fall into, especially with speaking. And that's the fear zone, where they have low self-confidence, they find excuses, they're affected by others' opinions, and we are not focusing enough on this. And so the classroom environment needs to take away all of this fear zone so that when a student is in their safe mode, in their comfort zone, we can extend that into the learning zone and kind of eliminate the fear. Is it easy? No. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. Is it worth the try to do this? Yes. And it starts with us. Okay. Because students deserve a lot more in class than just pushing ahead with the English language. Education is a lot more than just a hard skill. And you'll see that when, excuse me, that when we focus on the student as a whole, the way that they start to look at the language, they start to learn the language, they start to feel comfortable with the language. It's just magic. So we talk about a little bit about emotions, how it's important. We talk about this mindset, right? Because students sometimes study for a test. Students sometimes, it's you know, on a Saturday morning, little by little, the family starts to wake. So that's one of the reasons why I love the fact that, you know, working from home, you get to spend more time with your family. So, you know, our students, when we are teaching them, right, and we're teaching them not just the language, but having them really want to be in class, we tend to neglect their needs. Now, what do I mean by needs? In a school, there's so much going on politically, hierarchy, etc. The school system, right? What importance do they place on the subject of English? The curriculum, the budget for English. Dear teachers, quick question. When it comes to speaking, how many of you sometimes are a little bit hesitant when it comes to speaking English? How many of you find yourselves in the position that when you have to communicate in English, you get stuck? The reason why I'm asking this is because just as our students feel certain ways at times when speaking English, so do we as adults. And I find that when we talk about the school system and our classes, how many students are in your class when you're teaching in school? Who speaks first? Do we chunk? Do we group? Do we pair our students and float and facilitate and moderate so that all students are speaking? How many times are we told not to have our classrooms so boisterous, so loud? Standardized testing. So when I was talking before about our students, You know, when it comes to speaking, are we teaching for a test and are they learning for a grade? Are they learning to literally, let's say, regurgitate what was told to them so that they can say it again so someone else can hear it so they can get the grade on the test? Or is the art of speaking conducted in a way which allows mistakes, which allows trying, which allows failure? Because when we fail, it's our first attempt in learning. So just like with Phoebe and with Joey, students will not sound like me. They will not sound like you. They will not sound like the tape script. That's okay. Class time, should we have more hours for speaking? Should we have a 1 hour a week just oral practice for English? I don't know. Food for thought. Should a teacher who teaches oral communication, the communicative approach, be a native speaker? Food for thought. All of these things that I'm showing you right now plays a really huge role, not only in the language itself, but in the macro skills of how much can we practice a language if we don't have the time, if we don't have the resources, if we don't have the hours, or the class size is too large, right? And so something else that comes into play with their needs is an understanding by their parents. And so when I talk about the triangular relationship in education, student, teacher, parent, I show this from the movie of Wonder with Jacob Tremblay. He's the child actor who had to go through this entire change, metamorphosis, as I like to call it, to be this this character in a movie where he was operated on many times, and he had to go to school for the first time. He was homeschooled by his parents. And so what I do is I'm going to show you what happens on the first day of him going to school. Okay. When it comes to education, when it comes to communication, I firmly believe that it all starts from the home. That kids are taught, kids have role models, kids are, they observe communication in their home setting. And so when a student leaves that environment and comes to you in your school, in your classroom, you in turn, your role as a teacher becomes very multifaceted. You become a mother, a father, a nurse, a brother, a confidant, a facilitator, a superhero, many things in the eyes of your students. So let's see what happens when this young boy goes to school for the very first time. Okay.
I'll meet you right here after school, okay? Right here. I love you.
Love you too.
I'll see you later.
Can you hear me? If they stare, let them stare. You can't blend in when you were born to stand out.
We're gonna have a little man-to-man. Now, I gotta stop here because past this point is a no-dad zone, and you don't want to walk up with your parents because it's not cool.
But you're cool.
I know, I am, but technically most dads aren't, so. And neither are these helmets. Hey, 2 rules. First, only raise your hand once a class, no matter how many answers you know, except for science. Crush them.
Check.
Second, you're gonna feel like you're all alone, Augie, but you're not.
Check.
Should we lose this? Come on, costumes are for Halloween. Prepare for blast-off. I love you.
Love you too.
Have fun.
Bye.
So he said something just now, and this is where I like to end this webinar on speaking. He says, have fun, just have fun, right? And visibly you see him, the child is nervous, he's stressed, he's, totally new experience. I think that when our students open their mouths, when our students smile, when our students frown, when our students communicate, every time they do that, it's like this. I think every time that they convey, that they make this effort, it's this 5-second, oh man, right? It happens to me too when I have to do a presentation in front of a large group of people. I get excited, right? I get a little nervous, right? And so teaching is not easy. It isn't easy. It's one of the most difficult jobs, I would have to say, in the world. A lot of people disagree, but I think it is one of the most difficult and one of the most challenging jobs. And, one of those challenges is having each and every one of our students by the end of each year get better at communicating. And so, to sum up, get in tune with their feelings, their emotions, talk about it in class, get it out in the open, have their mindset, show them that it's okay to be afraid, it's okay to stay in your comfort zone for a moment, but that we must all reach and strive to better our best. And that our students' needs, it goes way beyond just the classroom. So you must work together, teachers, to make the best possible environment for your students when it comes to English. So if there are any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, I guess you can write it in the chat, or you can, I don't know if it's allowed, you can just open your mics, I guess. I don't know what's
I believe there's opportunity for people to share to the chat room, and then also if you just want to put your hand up there to the screen, we can unmute yourself. This small enough group, and you're not really stepping over people's toes. We got about 6 minutes to the official time, and I can hang out for a couple, 2 or 3 minutes, but I am hosting another session, and so what I'll put it out there as is we'll go for another 5-6 minutes strong, but then we can continue the conversation over in Discord. So with that, is there any questions and responses and thoughts?
Question, yes. Thank you, Greg, for your presentation. Yes. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I really like what you addressed about like connection with students. I think many times For me, being at a smaller like international school, especially in my class, a lot of students already feel like they have this mindset that the school that they're attending is not a great school. And so from that mindset already, they come to class with low expectations, with nothing really much of a desire or even a willingness to speak, because they don't find their motivation or what their purpose is. Because to see the school situation, I'm working at the school right now. I don't know how long I can work here, but they're very die. But anyways, cut to the point. How would you connect personally? How would you connect with your students, whether before or after, or do you stand in front of the door? For me, I like standing in front of the door and greeting them. What is it that you do?
Okay. Very quickly, I want to touch upon what you said also before. Many teachers, their authentic teaching style doesn't match the school culture. Or, as you said, students have this preconceived notion of, okay, it's not a good school. And so they come into class with very low expectations. So that can change by you in your classroom, because the school is a different environment. And then when they come into your classroom, as you said, and stand at the door, definitely, because you're greeting them into a world that's separate from the school, your classroom, their classroom. And so who cares what's going on out there? When you come through this gateway and you are the gatekeeper and you are greeting each one of those kids specifically, right? They come into that environment not feeling like they have to come, but that they want to come. And that's going to be because of you.
Mhm.
All right. I told you, we're superheroes. We can make huge differences in our students' experiences in the classroom. And what happens is, when they leave that classroom, they're going to start talking to other students. And they're going to say, man, I wish I had a teacher like that. Okay. So definitely stand at the class in the doorway or in that area where they're entering, and make that 5-10 seconds experience of coming in a warm experience, a happy experience with a smile.
Awesome. Thank you, Nehemiah. Kato from Naoka.
Hi.
Please go ahead. Yeah,
Sure.
please share.
I don't teach oral communication class, but I do teach like writing and listening. But I try to have students some kind of connection before the class starts. They usually sit in the classroom and then, how's your weekend? I like your top for the girls. I like your top, really cute on you, all the kind of conversation. And then trying to get the friendly atmosphere before the class starts, because they're already kind of scared, because sometimes they have to speak in class. And then sometimes I kind of throw jokes in here and there to make them laugh a little bit. And then there's one student, like there are certain students who will talk more vocal, but there are some students, especially engineering students, they're by nature very quiet. It's so hard, and they don't have any eye contact with me sometimes. In class, there's no way. They're so scared of me. But then when they just let them talk in maybe pair work, I just sit a little bit far away from them because of the coronavirus. So anyhow, can I ask you some questions? Are you comfortable with? But they will talk to you. And then sometimes I would say, well, I can see a burning desire to answer this question, and they will laugh. And then they don't mind talking after that. So I think that's really important to have how they feel as a student, as a teacher.
And laughter, that, people think, oh, they shouldn't laugh in class. Oh, they're making fun. Oh, laughter is so important. Okay. With the synapses and the neuropeptides and the dopamine that comes out. Okay. I'm not a science teacher, but These things happen to you, all right? It changes the way you feel instantaneously, right? And very quickly, you said about writing, that you teach writing. Writing is a great form of communication because when people write, they can talk about what they've written, they can share it, they can express it, they can have, people can ask questions about what they've written. It's all connected, you know.
All right, we are exactly at the 2:50 mark. If there is a burning question, I am not opposed to leaving it there, but we are also going to wrap this up as a video that will be able to be shown to friends and family members. And Greg, I really appreciate your enthusiasm, your sharing. We do want to do our best to meet the people's needs, not only our students, but as you mentioned, our other teachers. And so let me make sure that I am out of the way here.
Thank you everyone for your participation. Thanks.
Yeah, we just might, can we give a round of applause? And we've got the Discord information there in the chat space. I'll leave it open. We're going to bring this to a close, and we look forward to seeing you in other spaces here at the Korea TESOL International Conference 2022. Again, thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Have a great day.
So much.
Yeah.